Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up this screen. Rick Barnes' future, that's what a lot of people are talking about, and we're going to discuss that whole situation. And we're also going to talk about Uncle Lou trolls the Vols basketball team. Uncle Lou, you know, the Georgia guy? Yeah, he's trolling the Vols basketball team. We'll get into that, don't you worry. But first, let's talk about Rick Barnes, his future, and his past. And there's a lot of stories out here that Tennessee should consider hiring the FAU coach Dusty May, and that's going to be, you know, quite difficult. Let's talk about that for a minute. First of all, our coach, Rick Barnes, has really had a successful career here at Tennessee. He came into a situation where Tennessee was not very good at all, and he built them up from a poor situation into a really good one. Let's look at some of his history here. Now, let's take a look at what he's done over the years. You know, in 2018 and 19, he was 31-6, 15-3 in the SEC, and made it to the Sweet 16. Then in 2017 and 18, the year before, 26-9, won the SEC, lost in the second round. This year, 25-11, he was 11-7 in the SEC, and made it to the Sweet 16. And that's after losing his point guard, Zeke Ziegler. And that's, man, I'm telling you, that is a tough position to lose because he controls a lot of what happens out there. He also brings up the ball when there's a lot of pressure and really takes a lot of heat off the other players, and they can focus on scoring. Well, when you've got to take some of your best scorers and they've got to bring the ball up, that throws things off a little bit. So that played a bit of a role, no question. But anyway, still a good season. Again, 25-11, and he's 6-5 in NCAA tournament with a winning record. Now let's talk about money. If you let this guy go, not only are you letting go a coach who has done a really fine job, I mean, by anybody's measurements, he has done a really solid job. And let's also take into account, you know, he's not had a bunch of players getting in trouble like has happened with a lot of schools, and you know the ones I'm talking about. I mean, we're talking serious problems. And UT has not had that at all. We've got really good guys. They're under control, they're disciplined, and they go around the community and don't embarrass the university or do any harm that we've seen. So there's something to be said for that. And Rick Barnes, you know, has been a big part of it because he's a disciplinarian. You know, he spends a lot of time with these players, and he loves coaching and teaching. And I think the players really respect him because he's trying to make them better, and he spends as much time on their game as they do. And that's just a fact. And you saw that with Williams and Schofield, you know, when he took 2 low 3-stars and put them in the NBA, basically, because he worked with them so hard. And, you know, they didn't mess around either. You know, they got in good shape and became great players. And that's what Barnes likes to do with guys. Now, the reason people are talking about the FAU coach is because Danny White is actually connected to him pretty well with his brother. And Danny White's brother is Brian White, who is Florida Atlantic's athletic director. And his other brother is Mike White.
Hi, I'm Larry. This is my brother Daryl. That's my other brother Daryl,
who is also a coach. So there's a lot of connections with Danny White in basketball. He's also well known for making good hires, not only in football, but of course basketball as well. So I think he'd do a good job regardless of what happens with Rick Barnes, but I don't see Rick Barnes going anywhere. And if UT decided to make that decision, it'd cost a lot of money. Barnes makes about $5 million, $5.7 million a year, and he's got a contract through 2027, which is 4 more years. So you're looking at what? Probably close to $20 million to buy him out. It may not be the full amount of the contract, but it's going to be a lot of money. And I just don't see Tennessee doing that when the guy is really doing a quality job. The guy makes it to the Sweet 16 and you're going to fire him? I just don't see that happening, especially when he's done nothing but have successful years. So, you know, he's won the SEC tournament, he's won the SEC, and made it to the Sweet 16 a couple times. So it'd be kind of tough to be able to justify that kind of expenditure when the guy's doing a quality job and is a quality individual. And I know some people are a little bit mad at him because he flirted with UCLA for a while, and he did flirt with them. It's one of the reasons why he's paid so much. But, you know, when you look at what other basketball coaches are making, he's about where he should be. So while if we were looking for a coach, the FAU coach would obviously be a pretty easy hire for the Vols, and I think it'd be a good move for him. But we're just not in that situation. And understand, Rick Barnes is 69. He's not an old 69. He's in very good shape, and he's a gym rat. The guy loves to coach basketball, and he spends a ton of time in there. You know, he's not some big golfer. He doesn't like to go out and go fishing every day or anything like that. He's not Jerry Green. He's a guy that loves to coach football. He likes being around young people and teaching them how to be adults. And I got no problem with that. I know there's going to be some people that say, hey, you know, you need to let him go. He didn't make it far enough. You know, I just don't see it happening, and I don't see the financial wherewithal to do it. So, and we're a little bit spoiled. You know, he's brought a really high-quality brand of basketball, and we've gotten spoiled, and that happens with coaches. Sometimes they get right up to a certain level, and if they don't break through, even if they're really good, people get frustrated. And that's kind of where Rick Barnes is right now, and probably where the fan base is. But now let's talk about Uncle Lou. Now, some of you don't like Uncle Lou, and I understand that. Some of you do. If you don't know who he is, he's an amateur YouTuber and has been doing it for a long time. And just like me, I'm an amateur YouTuber. And I kind of prefer the amateurs just because they'll say crazy things, and they'll do a lot of stuff that, you know, you're not going to see a professional do. And there are a lot of professional YouTubers that do great jobs. I'm not getting on them or saying anything negative about them at all. As a matter of fact, they do a very good job. It's just I like some of the zaniness, and you're going to get that with Uncle Lou. So he's trolling our basketball team, and their team stinks. I mean, they have stunk for a long time, but he's trolling us. And you got, I mean, it's a poor job of trolling, okay?
Well, while Georgia's busy winning back-to-back national titles, in the only sport that really matters, football, the rich are getting richer. Oh, yeah. The poor just keep getting poorer. 2 basketball SKUs were eliminated over the last couple of days. And, of course, I'm talking about Alabama and Tennessee. 2 idiot...
I thought basketball didn't matter. Didn't he just say basketball doesn't matter? Yet he's doing a whole show to troll 2 teams that beat the crap out of Georgia. But let's let him go on.
2 idiot fan bases who have been running around for the last 3 months pretending to be basketball fans because their football teams are terrible. Neither one of them made the playoffs. Tennessee's never made it. Probably never will. Well, they'll never make a 4-team playoff.
Never make it in a 4-team playoff? Came awful close last year. And let's see, didn't he just say the exact opposite not a few weeks ago?
Tennessee is one of the teams this year that has a chance to make the college football playoffs. However long you want to make that list. If you want to make a list of whether it's 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 teams that you think have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs in 2023, I think Tennessee is on that list somewhere.
Interesting. Credibility problem. But anyway, let's let him keep talking.
So they run around pretending to be basketball fans, which they're not. It's just, it's to make themselves feel better about how disappointing and humiliated they are in their football teams. But they go out and they lose in the Sweet 16. Whee! 0 Final Fours combined in program history for Alabama and Tennessee. That's absolute poverty. Just absolute poverty. Now, I don't care at all about basketball. It's just funny to me that these Alabama football fans and Tennessee football fans who wouldn't know the difference between a 3-pointer and a hat trick in hockey are out here pretending to be basketball fans because their football teams are terrible. And meanwhile, their basketball teams have never even made a Final Four. And that streak continues. And both eliminated by group of 5 teams. Wow, beat by the group of 5. Alabama, choke job, losing to a lower seed. Tennessee, choke job, losing to a team they should have beat. It's just absolute poverty on a biblical scale for both of these teams. And right now they're in the comments, where was Georgia in the tourney, Will? Where was Georgia? I don't care about... Look, Georgia sucks. Georgia absolutely sucks at basketball, but guess what?
Now, he's correct about that. So let's give him some points. He's spot on with what he just said there, but he's going to continue on.
Georgia has made a Final Four in men's basketball. Alabama and Tennessee have not made a Final Four in basketball. Dummy!
All right, so Georgia, I guess they made a Final Four. I'm trying to remember where that was. That was like back in the early 1900s, I think. Sometime in like 1902, I think they maybe made a Final Four. Let's look at their last 10, 20 years. Let's see. This year they were 6-12 in the conference. Last year, 1-17. One win out of 18 ball games. So that's a huge improvement. Look, you've gone from 1 win to 6. You've gone from .056 win percentage to .33. Hey, that's strong. Year before, 7-11, 5-13, 2-16. It was a little bit of a weak year in 2018. 7-11. Oh, look, banner year. 2016, they were 9-9. Woohoo! Man, they were probably putting up banners on that year. Oh my gosh, they had 3 winning seasons in a row: 10-8, 11-7, 12-6. Man, I'm telling you, they probably put the coach on Mount Rushmore on that one. Then let's see, they were 9-9, 5-11, 9-7, 5-11, 3-13, 4-12, 8-8, 5-11, 2-14, 7-9. That's the last 20 years. So they've had, 3 winning seasons in 20 years, and they were barely winning seasons. And he's talking smack. The Vols have been a million times better. And oh, by the way, when it comes to basketball, there are a ton of Tennessee fans. I don't know about Alabama, but there's a reason why Thompson Bowling Arena is filled for every single SEC game. Over 20,000 people in that auditorium, because people love basketball up in Tennessee. We actually do appreciate it and like it. Now, look, if we sucked for 2 decades, we probably wouldn't like it very much, but we've been quite good. And the last 5 years, we've been strong. So, I get the easy argument. I don't care about basketball. Well, of course you don't, because you suck at it.
That's right, it sucks.
If you cared about it, it'd be too painful. And maybe he just doesn't like basketball at all. But to sit here and act like there aren't Tennessee fans that absolutely love basketball. Look, I watch every game except for the first few. If they're playing like Eckerd or something like that, I don't particularly care about that too much. I'll just look at the stats. But if it's an SEC game, I'm watching the crap out of it. And if it's against a number 1 team or, look, Barnes plays tough teams early on in the season. So we beat 2 number 1 teams this year and a number 2 team. We had a bunch of quadrant 1 wins. That's one of the reasons why we were so highly ranked, even after we lost Ziegler and we had some losses. So this is just poor trolling. It's not even a good job. Sometimes he does a good job. And I know a lot of this is a stick with him. He likes trolling. But this is a poor job. It's just not up to his normal level. You're going to have to take it up a notch, buddy. That ain't getting it done. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about Rick Barnes' future. I think he's still going to be here for several more years. I just don't see that guy retiring, and he's done too good a job for people to start pushing him out. That just seems over the top, especially if you're Danny White and you've got a guy that's done a good, solid job. Your football team is doing great. 11-2 last year. I mean, probably the best turnaround that we've seen in, a decade at almost any school. And Josh Heupel's a big part of that, and so is Danny White. And he's got a quality basketball coach that's winning, and his kids aren't getting in trouble. I'm not touching that. If I'm Danny White, I'm just saying, you finish out this contract, and we'll talk about it then. And I certainly wouldn't be coming up with $20 million to let a quality coach walk away to bring in a new guy who happens to be hot this year. I just wouldn't risk that. Plus, understand something. Danny White is a great athletic director. When Rick Barnes is ready to retire, he will find us a really good basketball coach. I have no concern of that at all. He has a history of doing a fantastic job, and he knows basketball probably better than he does football, and look at the job he's done in football. So, anyway. Oh, and one other thing, shout out to the Lady Vols. They made an almost great comeback against Virginia Tech. And unfortunately for us, they had a player that went crazy, this Georgia Amore. She scored 29 points, and the Vols still almost came back. They got it down to 1 point with 6 minutes to go and wound up losing, but they were down 18 at one point. So good for them for making a great comeback, and that Georgia Amore, man, she can play. Strong, strong player. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know to continue to cover the Vols, and I'll cover the trollers and all that kind of stuff. And look, I troll too, I'm not just wearing the guy out. Look, I do this kind of crap too. Maybe not to that extent, but, so be it. And if you've not subscribed, it's right here on the left. Just boop, hit that little button right there. I'd appreciate it. And right over here is the most recent video. Be sure to check that out. And we will see you next time on Sports Talk J.